This episode of the Totally Rad Show is brought to you by Squarespace. Coming up on today's TRS, we fight it out in Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
Today we're talking about Marvel vs. Capcom 3, the fighting game mashup sequel to Marvel vs. Capcom 2, which was the game that probably was in my Dreamcast more than any other game. I loved that game. Oh. And this is a sequel long in the making. A lot of people have been clamoring for it for a long time. We weren't sure it was even going to happen. And now it has. It's got a whole new cast of characters, some returning from previous iterations, some really bizarrely obscure, which is kind of rad. I mean, the whole series is about fan service, both on the Capcom side and the Marvel side. And you have some really obscure characters in there. We mentioned the Super Scroll, which is where we got our background this week. A Taskmaster is a guy I unlocked last night. It's like, who comes up with that guy? Which is great. It's great as a Marvel zombie. But anyway, so we have a fighting game, two-dimensional with the new graphics engine. The standard 2 kicks, 2 punches from Marvel vs. Capcom 2 have been thrown out, and we have a light, medium, and heavy attack. But it is that same 3-character tag team system where you can tag in and out at any time. And over-the-top, crazy, wild combos that are a standard for this genre. Alex.
Yeah.
Not genre, excuse me, series. Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
Yeah.
Didn't play a ton of it.
No.
But what did you think?
Well, it's really fun. I think for me, you know, there's sort of like tactician side of the fighting game, and then there's sort of the over-the-top, crazy, everything exploding on the screen type of stuff. And I tend more towards the over-the-top, crazy stuff exploding on the screen type of stuff. And maybe it's just because I don't have the sort of patience or interest in really studying the intricacies of the, you know, up, down, left, right.
If you want to have extra lives in Contra.
Intricacies. So this is sort of like the type of fighting game that I really enjoy. It's really had that vibe of walk up and just start playing with anybody, and you'll have fun. You know, you can do crazy stuff. The other thing is that I like games where you can do crazy stuff right out of the gate. Really, whether you know the sort of nuts and bolts of some of the different deeper stuff in sort of the Street Fighters and all that stuff. You know, at the end of the day, that said, it's a fighting game. And so if you're not a big fighting game type person,
sure,
it's a fighting
goes
game.
Without saying,
yeah.
Sure. And I would say that I think that they made a big intentional design decision to make the game more accessible. And you
which
have
I think
the
is
simple
great.
mode, which
Yep.
is like just push a button and you do all the crazy stuff.
Yeah, which I think is great, because at the end of the day, you want the crazy stuff is the stuff that everybody wants to do. You know, it's always sort of frustrating when you like, I'm trying this new fighting game for the first time, and you're going punch, 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 kick, punch, 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 and the guy's like fucking throwing deck chairs at you, and you're like, how do I do all that? Yeah. So there is something to the accessibility of it. So it's definitely fun, and I mean, even just having the sort of mix of the Capcom versus Marvel, I think it's great, because everything is familiar yet different. You know what I mean? So you get to, like, I played as Chris from Resident Evil, and it's like, pull out a blowtorch and blowtorch people in the face, and you're like, but it's the guy from Resident Evil, that's awesome, you know what I mean? So there is that sort of nostalgic joy for it. So I think it's super fun.
Daniel.
Yeah, I think this game is a win-win because...
Oh, 2 wins.
Because these...
Even though you only need to win one, there's no rounds.
Even though I never won playing you guys. But because the special moves are so simple, they're all the same for every character, not aesthetically, but input-wise, they're all that simple Street Fighter fireball type deal. You can walk up and just if you're the button masher, you will luck into seeing awesome stuff happen, your character doing awesome stuff. But the thing that takes skill isn't like in a Super Street Fighter or maybe some other fighting games where the inputs are a little bit more intricate. Once you have that down, it's the same thing as if you have that what skill always comes into play with timing and blocking and and what to do next to each other. So this game, really, you can play button mashy or you can play tactically, and just you still get the same joy of everything's amped up. And that amped upness is so cool.
Yeah.
It's amped way up.
It's that Marvel vs. Capcom balance be damned approach. Like, let's just throw the kitchen sink in there.
And that's pretty rad. And it's great looking. The graphics in this rendition are amazing. I noticed the graphics upgrade in this game much more than I even did in Super Street Fighter. So, yeah. The
Street Fighter
revamp
4.
4. Yeah, the revamp. Yeah.
Yeah, I love this game, and I might like it even more than Street Fighter 4 as well. It plays to my Marvel zombiness. I love the fact that there's all these wonderful characters that have never existed, even big name characters like Thor, which obviously is a big priority for Marvel at this point. But being able to play the God of Thunder in a fighting game is really satisfying and really fun. But there's also, for example, Deadpool is in this game, and they do such a wonderful job of embracing what makes these characters themselves. They get the flavor of the characters right on. So you have Deadpool doing all these ridiculous, jokey things, like he does a Hadouken, like he's making fun of Ryu in his own game. And one of his super attacks is he reaches down and grabs the power meter at the bottom of the screen and lifts it up and smacks people with it.
Wow.
It's a wonderful
That's funny.
recognition of that fact that character is meta and silly and all this stuff. And you have that across the board. Even the Capcom characters, they get, you have a character whose name I can't even pronounce, but it's from oh God, the painting game with the dog, Okami?
Okami, yeah.
Yes,
right?
Or Ogami maybe, but yeah.
Anyway, it's great just to have these really obscure, interesting characters and throwing them into a fighting game. It's awesome. Over-the-topness is on display. I mean, you're going miles above the screen. The backgrounds are spectacular. The stages are spectacular that you get to play in.
Yeah.
There's so much fan service there, on top of a really solid fighting engine and interesting little additions that they've made as far as making it friendly for online play, and you can earn these titles and stuff, sort of like Call of Duty would allow you to put a title and an icon, and you can unlock them as you go. So the farther you get in, when somebody logs on online, they see your cool title, they see your cool icon that you've got.
Street Fighter 4 had the same thing.
Yeah. It's really, really cool. And there's not a lot there as far as story mode. I was very disappointed that the endings are literally only 2 different comic book pages and some text. That is really disappointing. Yeah. And the last boss, who is Galactus, which is awesome, and you're literally fighting to save Earth, is awesome, but Galactus is like a classic cheap Capcom end boss who just like sweeps across the screen and you're dead, or like does all the beams of forever and you're dead.
Yeah. All the beams of forever.
Yeah, it's a frustrating end boss, but that's sort of part and parcel with these games. It is cool that you get to fight Galactus and he's like bigger than the entire screen,
That's cool.
and you're fighting to save Earth, which is cool. So there's, it's a give and take. The mission mode is a little silly. It feels like the things you have to do they're meant to train you in the game, but there's not enough meat there to keep me coming back for more unless I'm a real completionist. But
Interesting.
Great looking, great playing.
Would have been really fun if the level. I really prefer my fighting games to have tiers. Like where you're like Soul
crying.
Calibur does that, where you're like fighting on top, and then you get hit into the thing, or what? Dead or Alive does that.
Mortal Kombat, yeah.
And then you knock into and I was thinking, it would have been great if you played all the levels had that same aesthetic. And it would have been great to play like Ghouls and Goblins or Ghosts and Goblins. Like it's 8-bit.
Yeah.
And you could be moving through a level. Like there could have been some fun.
It's awesome how they embrace like Arthur from Ghosts and Goblins is there, and he like gets his armor and gets another level of his armor, or goes down to his boxer shorts, and his background does look kind of cool. Like it's that world, but done in a really cool graphics.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway. I think it's a win, man.
Yeah. It's
a win-win. So.
It's an awesome game. I think if
It's
you're
like
a
a
fighting game
win-win.
fan, it's a must-buy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember to stick around for this day in rad history, but first, Daniel Trachtenberg, sponsor me.
So Squarespace
Yes.
is where you go if you want to make a website, whether it's a blog, a personal portfolio, really any kind of website. You need not have any coding experience. It's all WYSIWYG. It's all what you see, what you get, and it all looks awesome. It's very easy to make something very cool. But even if you do have coding experience, I hear that it's still a pretty rad way to make a website. They also now have these geolocation stuff happening, so you can add a feature that is for Gowalla or Facebook locations or any of those other check-in things.
And it generates, the thing with the coding stuff that I always forget to say, is that it generates the CSS. So it's literally a WYSIWYG editor that's not making some arbitrary WYSIWYG format thing. It's creating, I mean, it's like...
So you just jump in and edit it if you know what to do.
Yeah, but it spits out the stuff. It's like you could just, it doesn't take some weird processor to get it. So.
And if you don't know what you're doing, they feature 24/7 support.
Yeah,
they also have an iPhone app that is able, you can moderate your comments, you can blog right from your phone. You can literally post to your website from your phone. And some of the biggest websites are run off of Squarespace. JeffCanada.com is run off of Squarespace. OneCoolThingAday.com is run off of Squarespace. AlexAlbrecht.com. So head on over to Squarespace.com/TRS.
And get a 2-week free trial.
What he said.
Yeah, system works. All right, people, we will see you tomorrow.
Coming up tomorrow, we discuss the latest movie trailers.
Today is February 15th, and on this day in rad history, in 1995, Star Wars Dark Forces was released by LucasArts, and it was the first in a series of Star Wars-based first-person shooters. Of course, Star Wars The Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2 was the biggest hit of that series, but this was released on a little operating system I like to call DOS. Do you remember it?
Oh my God.
I played the crap out of this game.
I played the crap out of all of these games.
Yeah.
These games to me were like, they made the two things that I love. This is the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, in my opinion. It's the peanut butter, it's the chocolate.
And a cup.
And a cup.
Yeah, good times.